All right, hello everybody. Well, it's an important day for the city and an important day for the administration. Want to announce some important personnel actions that will have an impact for years to come, and want you to know how proud I am at the outset of the team that we assembled from the beginning and the incredible work that they have done. I've told you throughout, we will be providing you with personnel updates as they occur, and let me go over several things with you right now. First, very good news for the City of New York and the people of New York City. Three tremendous public servants will continue their service to this city going into the second term. Still, you good? All right. Three tremendous public servants will continue their work on behalf of the city going into the second term. Our police commissioner, Jimmy O'Neill, our fire commissioner, Dan Nigro, and our corporation counsel, Zach Carter. And I want to thank them all for their continued commitment to this city and for the great work they're doing. I want to say something about each because I really want to honor what they have achieved. First of all, Commissioner O'Neill, I have to say, Jimmy, you have done an outstanding job. It's been now, I guess we're pushing on towards a year and a half now. Hey, guess what? Let's start with the most important point. We have the safest big city in America, and it continues to get safer. That is testament to the leadership of Commissioner Jimmy O'Neill and the great work of the men and women of the NYPD. You will remember that Jimmy started on a very difficult day, the day of the bombing in Chelsea. He proved literally on day one that he was ready for the job, and he's continued to prove it every day since. His most foundational contribution was the work he did in building the neighborhood policing model under Commissioner Bratton. That model has flourished. It has proven to be extraordinarily important to our crime-fighting efforts and to improving the relationship between police and community. And he's also led the way in a number of key reforms, including bringing body cameras to all of our officers on patrol in the coming years. Extraordinary achievement, and I'm looking forward to a lot more from Commissioner Jimmy O'Neill. I also want to quote from the Associated Press today, looking at the crime statistics for this year, and we always remind everyone the statistics represent human beings and human lives, and the fact that we are on a pace to have a level of crime that we've not seen in this city in over half a century. But the quote that jumped out to me was amazing, and because it's Associated Press, it's being seen all over the country. It says, these numbers mean a person's odds of getting killed by homicide in tightly packed, diverse New York City this year were about the same as they were last year in Wyoming, Montana, and South Dakota. Extraordinary impact that your leadership has had, Jimmy, and extraordinary credit to the men and women under your command. Commissioner Dan Nigro has been a revelation from my point of view, a leader who has managed to continually make the FDNY stronger. He is universally respected, has governed over consistent progress in his agency. In 2016, the fewest fire deaths in New York City, also in over a century, an extraordinary achievement. We have this year one of the safest years on record, and we have a fire department that, after a lot of years of challenges, has made a huge step forward and increasingly has personnel that look like all of New York City. Diversity in the fire department has increased consistently, and the recent firefighter exam was taken by more than 46,000 people, 60% of whom were women and people of color. That's the most ever. Commissioner Nigro, just so appreciative of all you've achieved and the constant progress you've made in your agency, and so happy you'll be continuing in the role. And Zach Carter, The list of achievements is long. I'm only going to give you some of the highlights. He resolved favorably the stop and frisk litigation. He put together the Central Park 5 settlement, closing a wound that had been part of the life of the city for decades. He resolved the Vulcan lawsuit, which helped to pave the way for the improvements in the FDNY situation. He helped to foster a settlement in the Nunez case, which included a number of reforms at the Department of Correction. I can say safely that whatever we're doing in this administration, Zach Carter is a part of it and plays a central role. He's one of my most trusted advisors and has played a crucial role, particularly in some of our most important initiatives. So thrilled that Zach will be continuing. So we're going to first talk about these three announcements, and I want you to hear from each of them, but I want to first turn to Charlene because, as I said to you last time we got together for a similar purpose, Charlene and I have been in the process of team building now for about 16 years. It is a meticulous process. It's something we care deeply about. It's something we do together. And this is a day we're very proud of this team. Charlene.
Thank you, Bill. I am so delighted to be here today to be able to sing the praises of these three men that's sitting at this table. I remember when Bill and I first met with them and talked with them about the posts that they hold, which, by the way, are some of the toughest jobs in our city. And I was struck by how bold their visions were for our city. I was clear from the start that they were ready to do big things. No challenge was insurmountable. And really, wow, have they delivered. You've heard what Bill just detailed in terms of their achievements. It is pretty amazing. Over the past term, they have surpassed our hopes for what anyone could possibly accomplish in their positions, and we could not be happier that they will continue in their positions. I'm proud to say that Commissioner O'Neill has been a close partner of mine over the past year, and we've worked together as co-chairs of the Domestic Violence Task Force. We've stepped up the city's work to combat human trafficking, and we've helped equip officers with the training and tools they need to de-escalate situations with people who are living with mental illness. I think what we've done together says a lot about Jimmy's leadership. He doesn't shy away from the toughest, most persistent and insidious problems. He has deep compassion for the most vulnerable among us, and he is community-focused in all that he does because he believes so deeply in building positive relationships between police officers and people. Commissioner Nigro has taken the fire department so far. He set out to make changes that were long overdue and has built a department that is even more diverse than ever. He has recruited women and people of color to join the department, and he has elevated women and people of color to leadership positions. And he has truly prioritized the well-being of his firefighters, making sure they have the tools to cope with the trauma and the stress that come with being New York's bravest. Dan is also the best kind of team player. And I'll never forget the role that he played in helping us to find enough space to launch pre-K for all. That is a testament to the fact that you can't make big change unless you have everyone at the table. And Corporation Counsel Carter is another guy that you always want at the table. Of course, he has a brilliant legal mind. But government lawyers have this reputation for being the people who say no to everything. And that is not Zach. He believes so strongly in our vision of a city for all, and he tackles every challenge with incredible passion. Let me tell you, he's quiet, but when he's fired up, he is fired up. And while he's thoughtful and measured in the way he does business, that fire really runs through everything that he does. So we are so fortunate to have these accomplished leaders continue to serve into Bill's next term, and I'm happy to have this opportunity to publicly thank them for their service and leadership.
Thank you, Charlene. Now that we've showered them with praise, let's hear from them. First, Police Commissioner Jimmy O'Neill.
I don't have anything left to say. Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Shalane. Thank you for those words. I'm honored to continue serving as the police commissioner of truly the finest police department in the nation, if not the world. I've had the good fortune of doing this job now for 15 months, not a year and a half yet, but I've been a cop for almost 35 years. And I think I said this the day that they announced, Mr. Mayor, that you announced that I was going to be the police commissioner. Never in my wildest imagination did I think I would have this job, but I think the beauty of it is what I get to see every day. The hard work of the men and women in this police department, what they managed to accomplish, what we've managed to accomplish over the last year and a half, the last 4 years working for Commissioner Bratton. We've made some great strides. If you look at neighborhood policing, a lot of people were skeptical about that. They just thought it was a reincarnation of community policing, but it certainly isn't. We have built real relationships and continued to improve on them. Our police officers feel like they have ownership of their sectors now. These sector-level meetings are a great success. And if you look at crime, I mean, homicides, shootings, overall crime continue to go down. 2016 was a very good year for us, but here we are in the last days of 2017, and once again, homicide, shootings, and overall crime are down. I'm not going to give you numbers. I think most of you know the numbers. We are in a good place, and as the mayor said, we haven't seen the levels of crime this low since the 1950s. So it's an honor. It's truly an honor to be retained as the police commissioner. I love this job. I love what I do, and I look forward to spending the next 4 years leading this great police department. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Commissioner Dan Nigro.
Well, thank you. First, I'll say 2014, I was extremely grateful that the mayor gave me the opportunity to lead the FDNY, to lead an agency that I've loved for more than 48 years now. I joined the department in 1969. I remain grateful today that I have the opportunity to continue to lead the bravest, and I say that they're not just called the bravest, they truly are. The men and women of the department are the bravest, and it's a privilege to be the fire commissioner of the city of New York. You've heard about some of the things that I think our team has accomplished. We've brought fire deaths to historic lows. Last year was the lowest in 100 years. Historic lows we're at. We've brought EMS response time down. We've made this city safer, better, and fairer. And I say that we are more diverse than ever before, but we're not where we should be. And the opportunity to stay on, to get us where we should be, is very important to me, that we continue down this road, and I'm very proud to be the leader of this department. And you've heard a little about teamwork. I think the mayor and Shalane have a great team here, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I think in all my years in the department, the fire department and police department have never worked better together, and it's a tribute to Commissioner O'Neill and his team and my team working together to keep the city safe. I think the people of the city can be confident that we are doing everything possible together to make this city safe. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now the wise and measured Corporation Counsel, Zach Carter.
I don't know where the quiet part came from. Never been
Quiet storm.
Quiet storm. Right. No, it has really been a privilege to serve as Corporation Counsel over these past 4 years. I mean, I have the good fortune to lead a group of really extraordinary lawyers who, with passion and intelligence, and most importantly, imagination, help to solve the city's legal problems, both defending the city in litigation and doing it brilliantly, trying more cases over the past few years than ever before, and maintaining a very strong record of success. But also when cases are brought against some of our agencies that actually signal problems that are in need of correction, they know when to take off their litigation hats and put on their problem-solving hats and help the city solve these problems. And I have also had the good fortune of working with commissioners like Dan and Jimmy, who really embrace the fairness and equity agenda of this administration, so that when we're solving the problem of stop and frisk, we had a partner, a willing partner in the police department. Because, first Jimmy's predecessor, but now Jimmy himself is someone who at his core believes that respectful policing is effective policing. And so that has resulted in a very different approach to policing that engages with communities in a very different way than it has been before. And in Dan, a partner who, when we resolved the Vulcan litigation, embraced the notion that diversity was something that had to be enhanced, and we couldn't wait for it to evolve. It had to be something that had to be done proactively. So he assembled a first-rate team of people to assist in that effort, and it's been a pleasure to be involved in that also. And I hesitate to say too many good things about the mayor. I don't want to sound like Mike Pence.
Never let that happen.
Right, I have too much personal pride.
Oh my God!
But I will say though, in all kidding aside, that it is a really unique opportunity to assist the mayor in implementing a fairness and equity agenda that cuts through all the things that he has sought to accomplish. And it presents, frankly, a special challenge for the law department because some of the things that we're attempting to do are unprecedented. Sometimes the law department has to be the ministry of magic in coming up with some fairly exotic legal theories that support what we're trying to accomplish, whether it's increasing affordable housing in the most expensive housing market in the city, or providing education for a whole new generation of pre-kindergarten children. So that has been a pleasure to do that. And also, as I've thought about the signature achievements of the administration, they've both had the twin attributes of being both audacious and, at least with heroic effort, achievable. And when everything you do is audacious and achievable, you're always testing the limits of the possible, and that's exciting. So glad to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Zach, and I want to give a special congratulations to you and your team for the great victory in the Court of Appeals that now will allow the Water Board to move forward and provide rebates to 664,000 homeowners in this city that they are very happy to receive, and it's a matter of fairness, and the Law Department won that case with their typical professionalism, so thank you to you and your team. The last announcement obviously is a bittersweet one. It's not news you've seen in the last 24 hours, but I want to just speak from my heart here about Carmen Fariña. I have so many stories I could tell, and so many warm moments and so many special moments along the way, going back now 16, 17 years to when we first met, and the work we did locally in District 15 in Brooklyn. And from the very beginning, Carmen was someone that I realized was an extraordinary talent, but also extraordinarily wise. And I learned a lot from her from the very beginning. I sought her counsel in all the years in between. And then the day came when the people chose me as their mayor, and we had to decide on a schools chancellor, an incredibly important, difficult role. And I reached out to Carmen Fariña, and her first impulse was to offer me advice. And I tried to steer the conversation to the topic of Carmen Fariña with no success initially. But the more we talked, the more I tried that subterfuge of describing the ideal candidate and then saying, oh, by the way, that describes you. Slowly but surely, she warmed to the idea of coming out of retirement and getting back on the playing field. And one thing I did not know about Carmen at the time was that she would take on the role with kind of energy you can only call superhuman. When someone's coming out of retirement to take on one of the toughest jobs in the country, you wouldn't blame them if they just worked like anyone else. She proceeded to do something miraculous. I constantly called her or emailed her while she was in the middle of a school visit. I have no idea how she possibly managed to visit so many schools so often. while answering emails from parents all over the city, while attending strategy meetings here and at the Tweed Building. Just unbelievable energy and focus, which harkens back to one of my favorite quotes of the entire administration. It was a very special day for Carmen and me both, because we did the announcement at MS 51 in the school district that both of us served those years earlier at the middle school that both Chiara and Dante went to, on the gym floor where Chiara and Dante used to play basketball, and it was a very personal moment for me. And I was caught up in that, but the single most memorable moment that day was when Carmen flashed a big, bright smile and said that part of why she was going to take on this job, even though she had reached the age of 70, she was coming back. She said, today, 70 is the new 40. And she just beamed this big smile. And I said, you know, I've heard a lot of those kind of slogans, but I never heard 70 is the new 40 before. I think we're about to start something. Well, she proved it. I think your version of 70 is new 40 actually sometimes looked like the new 30 or the new 20 because there was so much energy. But more than just the extraordinary wisdom and energy and leadership is what she achieved. And I can tell you something, I heard this from teachers all over the school system, I heard it from parents. People felt they were in good hands. They felt that there was an educator at the helm who really knew her stuff and really felt their lives, and it made all the difference. She will go down in history not only as one of the longest serving chancellors in the history of New York City, but as one of the most effective chancellors we've ever had. And the list of achievements is extraordinary. Highest graduation rate in the history of New York City, highest college enrollment rate for our young people, highest college readiness rate, 4 years of improved test scores, obviously a crucial role in the launching of pre-K, which has been profoundly important to the future of the city, and then the launching of 3K. I remember being in that classroom with Carmen in the first hours of 3K starting in this city and seeing the shape of the future. And one of the reasons why it was possible was her confidence in her team and the ability to do great things. She never shirked. She never shirked when we talked about creating the equity and excellence agenda. She never shirked when I said, Carmen, we have to figure out a pathway to getting all our kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade. And I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. I think some of it was right in this room. You know, she soberly told me how unprecedented it would be in this city to achieve that level. And then she proceeded to tell me exactly what it would take and said, we're going to take on the mission. That is the epitome of who Carmen Fariña is. So, so many children benefited, so many educators benefited from her leadership. And I also want to say, at a time when this nation was roiled by division, our chancellor stood up as a great example of what's best about New York City. Her powerful voice, her presence reassured parents and kids all over the city, including our immigrant children, who really feared what was coming next in their lives. But because of Carmen's leadership, they knew there was a place where they were safe and respected and protected, and that was in our schools. And that made a big, big difference at a very sensitive moment for this city. I could go on, but suffice it to say, I asked a lot of Carmen Fariña, and she gave me even more. And it's been a fantastic 4 years. I couldn't be happier with what we've achieved together. And I am now formally announcing the 2nd retirement of Carmen Fariña. And I can say this from the bottom of my heart, leave public service with her head held very, very high. My pleasure now to turn to, one more time, Charlene, because I know she has some strong feelings she wants to share about this great experience we've had together.
Yes, absolutely. There's no way to feel but strongly about someone like Carmen Fariña. What a joy it's been to work beside this powerhouse of a woman. She's a tremendous inspiration to me, and I mean that both in terms of her incomparable record of service and on a personal level, too. Carmen's a storyteller with a purpose, bringing energy and a certain gravitas to everything that she does. To me, Carmen is the embodiment of the joy of learning. Throughout everything she has done, and she has done a lot over a long career, she delights in learning along the way. A few months ago, and I remember this so clearly, I did not know she was going to join us that day. She helped us launch the NYC Unity Project, our unprecedented commitment to making sure LGBTQ youth are safe, supported, and healthy. And when it was her turn to speak, she talked about how much her grandchildren had talked to her about LGBTQ concerns. And that was quite a moment. The audience warmed to her immediately and felt like she was there with them and supporting them. And Carmen took what she learned and has helped make New York City's schools some of the most welcoming and affirming places for our LGBTQ young people. There are stories like that throughout her career, and she's made the health and well-being of all our children and families a priority. And all of us in the administration have benefited from learning from her and along with her. We are certainly sad to see her retire, but I'm so proud of what she's done for all New Yorkers. You know, the word countless tends to be overused in language, but I really believe that Carmen has touched countless lives. She knows that education is more than numbers and letters, and that it's about love. And she has led with love during her entire career. So thank you, Chancellor Carmen Fariña. Gracias. We really love you.
Beautiful, thank you. And with that, the woman of the hour, Chancellor Carmen Fariña.
Well, it's really my pleasure to be here today. And thank you not only to both of you, but the commissioners with whom I've enjoyed a special relationship. Zach, you and I had a particularly good one on issues that really matter to both of us. But I want to be clear that to me, probably if I have a regret, it's that I said no so many times to the mayor when I should have started with yes right from the very beginning. Because there's nothing that is more satisfying than being able to be a public servant and really mean it, that you're a servant of the people. And all the statistics, and we could have a lot more than what we heard here today. We have managed to break ground on so many things. The thing I'm proudest of is the fact that we have brought back dignity to teaching, joy to learning, and trust to the system. When I come up with an idea, I have at least 150 people who can say to me, but Carmen, we will do this, as strange as it may sound, because we trust you to support us. And I want to be clear that to me, trust is a word that we don't use often enough when it comes to public service. And we need to use it more. And we need to use it in a very meaningful way so that people understand that if you're going to do the audacious moves, that there's a support for it. And no one has been luckier than I to have a support team beyond believableness. And to me, it's how you choose the people. And if you go back to the very beginning, people did not believe that we would come in and start shifting structures as quickly as we did. So if I have to think about what I'm really proud of, we put in a system that worked on collaboration, not competition, from day one. Bringing on board 50% or more, it's actually closer to 60%, new superintendents who had a mandate to support principals, support teachers, but also build more collaboration in their communities. There were schools districts in this city of New York that were schools right across the street from each other, and they did not even know each other's names. Where people had access to materials that they could share, but there was no way to do it. So to me, having the most wonderful superintendents in this country, many of which are being visited by everyone, to see how you create that sense of community in your districts, I'm particularly proud of. And I think that that's what allowed us to make a lot more of the changes going forth. I think also that it's really important not to be in public service, and that's what I admire about everyone at this table, for a personal ego or a personal ambition. You're really in this job to make life better for whatever constituents you serve. And in order to do that, you have to do it in a very meaningful, strategic way. And when people say, oh, you know, and with all due respect, they love you. I never joined in this job to be loved or to win a popularity contest. I came into this job to be respected and to be understood so that people will then be motivated to do what I think is important for the children of the city of New York. One of the things I'm proudest of is our outreach to community in general. Our family engagement has never been higher. We are now at a point, I attend, I don't know, at least 10 meetings a month, just for community members. I have probably visited with every one-on-one city council member, go to Albany. You can't get people to believe in your vision if you're not talking to them one-on-one. And the amount of time you spend on individual conversations builds that community and builds that trust and builds the fact that it's not about you, but it's about them. And I think that's very important. As the mayor rightfully said, I did unretire once. I don't see retirement as going into the sunset and living in Florida or any other fancy things. I fully intend to stay involved. I have my little projects already picked out. There are things I started that I want to see completed. And where I'm very fortunate is, like, once again, that I have the most unbelievable team that you could imagine that has been carefully selected with different areas of expertise. I said goodbye. I said something to my leadership team this morning, and I was able to very purposefully say something very special about each of them that I expect them to even ramp up 3 times up, because we'll need them more than ever. When I took this job, the mayor asked me, would I mind taking as a partner someone that he very much respected. And not only did I mind, I had already kind of co-opted her already and said to her, Ursulina Ramirez, will you be, at the time, my chief of staff? Unfortunately, she can't be here today. But I want to say publicly that she went from chief of staff to friend of everything to head of operations in a way that very few people can accomplish. And for me, as long as Ursulina is part of my transition team, things will be wonderful and things will continue to grow. And I want to say an eternal thank you for the effort she and her team have put on in going forth. So to the children, I sent a letter out to the staff today. I sent it out with a poem called To Be of Use. And to me, there is no greater legacy to leave a job where you thought you could be of use, actually strategically plan how you were going to be of use, and leave being able to evaluate that you were of use. So for me, it's all been great, and I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Well done. Well said. All right, we are going to first take questions about today's announcements, then we'll reset and do off-topic after. Go ahead.
I have a question for the Chancellor and for the Mayor. So first, you have served at every level of this big, sort of crazy system. You maybe know it better than most people alive. What surprised you as Chancellor, even as opposed to Deputy Chancellor, about what was hard to change about such a massive system? Was it turning around struggling schools, which is obviously such a massive challenge? I mean, where was it hardest? Where were you surprised by where it was hard to actually move the needle in a system of 1 million kids?
Liza, I wasn't surprised at what was hard, but why people hadn't figured it out before. To me, if you're going to run a system, any system with mandates, which has generally been what's happened, people, even if they want to do what you want them to do, are going to resist you just because you told them to do it. I found that the amount of time that had to be spent on getting people on board before you made decisions was crucial. And I had people who said, why are you spending all your time on that? Just do it. And the reality is that's not the way to get it done. I think also what surprised me is how many people say no before they say maybe. One of the things I've instructed my staff is, even if you think you're going to say no ultimately, say maybe, so it gives you time to reflect on it. And then a lot of the good ideas don't have to come from 52 Chambers Street. They can come from the community. So, and the other challenge, which to me was a shock, was how people would say to me, how many schools you, and many of you in this room have said this to me, why do you visit so many schools per week? The best information about what works, it doesn't work, is when you visit a school. Teachers tell you something that you're not going to read in the newspaper, that you're not going to see in a survey. Principals, when you go into their office and you take notes and listen intently. I visited, I don't know, probably 400 schools in the last, and people say, you know, Carmen, this rule that you guys made up doesn't work, or this. And to me, this being an attentive listener and following up, I got an email today from a teacher that I visited 3 years ago. She had just started a band, in Ridgewood in Queens. And I was there on a Saturday morning to see this first Saturday Academy program. And with all due respect, the kids were horrible. It was the first day of the ban. It was horrible. These were all newly arrived immigrants. None of them had been in this program, but he was trying to figure out a way to unite the kids who were coming from different countries, and he felt starting a ban on a Saturday when they were coming for academics would be a good thing. And he emailed me today, and he said, your encouragement made me want to prove that this was going to be the best band, and invited me now to his holiday concert when he said they're much better. So this is why you do this job, and I'm grateful that Shirlene got it, that I'm a storyteller, because this is about stories. It's not about all the statistics. But I think the challenge to me was, why don't they listen more to the communities and get the information from them, rather than just look at, piles and piles of research, which may not be as informative. So that's one of them. And I think the other one, and this is something that I still want to stay focused on in my little pet project, why not look at collaboration as better than competition across the board? One of the things I'm proud of that doesn't really come up a lot in the statistics is our work on co-located high schools. We are now working with 25 co-located high schools that serve about 145 schools. This notion that if you are the best at something in the same building with someone else who's struggling with something else, to me, is a foolish endeavor. If you have 5 high schools on a campus and they can share AP courses, after-school programs, teachers in shortage areas, by the way, all of these schools doing this now, and convincing the principals, and this is not a small thing, to go on a single bell schedule. I go to the meetings and I say clearly, the first thing, listen guys, no conversation if you can't commit to a single bell schedule, and then we work on from there. This to me, once we started doing this work and how easy it was once we got it going, and the benefits that we're getting for triple the number of AP courses in our co-located campuses, business leaders coming on board. So these are the things I'm really proud of, but these are not, the fancy stories, but in terms of producing results for kids and their families, unbelievable. And to me, collaboration is key to everything we do.
And I was going to ask, I'm not going to waste my time saying who's going to be the next chancellor. I don't know yet. But obviously, Carmen fit a profile pretty precisely that you wanted. So describe who the person what kind of person might take on that work next, whether you're going to sort of keep the commitment that that person should not have a waiver from the state, that they should be an educator.
Yeah.
Who's that person?
So, okay, I'm going to set the ground rules, perfectly fair question, but let me set the ground rule for everyone. It's the same ground rules as everything with personnel. We'll announce things when we're ready to announce them. There is already a nationwide search going on. It has been underway for a while now. We're just making it public at this point. Again, this is something Carmen and I, this whole process from day one, we have a special bond. We've talked about timelines for quite a while. This is something we've understood together how we would do, when we would do it. But I'll say for sure, the next chancellor will be an educator. And I would say the 4 years of Carmen Fariña are the perfect object lesson of why a chancellor should be an educator. She has been able to achieve things that non-educator chancellors simply could not achieve. Yeah.
Here, just to follow up on that, can you give us a sense, I guess, of like what kind of values or policy approaches, or are you looking for someone who sort of shares your progressive vision and can translate that into education policy? Like, what does the next person have to bring to the table?
The difference this time is that the vision for the school system is already on paper for everyone to see. It's the equity and excellence vision. It is absolutely a progressive and inclusive vision. It's also very rigorous. There's numerical goals all through it that have to be met. And I expect the next chancellor to continue the progress on graduation rate, college readiness, test scores, et cetera. So, unlike last time, we have a very clear blueprint, and it's publicly available. And certainly, as I talk to candidates, I'm going to want to see evidence of their alignment to it and of success in achieving similar things.
And you had told us previously to assume continuity unless told otherwise. Were people not assuming continuity for some of these other positions? Is that why you're coming out and saying now that there's...
It's literally, we will over time tell you what's going to happen with each and every position, and we'll do it, at time and place of our own choosing. But the broad rule should be to assume continuity because, as you see, even where we've made changes, we brought people from other parts of the administration into new roles. I think you're going to see a lot of the same folks continue in their role. You're going to see some people move into other roles. Of course, like any other transition after 4 years, you will see some new faces, brand new faces, but it will all happen in due time. So my point is, unless you hear otherwise, assume continuity, and we'll tell you each thing explicitly when the time is right. Yes.
Question for Chancellor Fariña and for Commissioner Nigro. Chancellor Fariña, you touched on what some of your projects are going to be, your pet projects going forward. You said collaboration, but can you tell us anything more and how you plan to sort of work on those pet projects going forward?
I think this is something that we will discuss. I will discuss with the mayor. But like I said, last time I retired, I worked part-time all the years after. So I was never really, truly retired.
Your idea of part-time.
Yeah. But to me, if you have something to offer that you think is worth giving, why not? And to me, it's the issues that when I retired the first time, for me, it was middle schools. And I stayed in working with middle schools the year after I retired to really see what I could do to help them. And it's one of the reasons I came back. And the first initiative I took on was middle schools. I saw that as a continuity. So like I said, right now, the co-located high school campus work really enthralls me and how fast we can move things by just really staying focused on the work. And as I've discussed with the First Lady, there's a section of the city that I feel maybe my work with them would really help. But I think those are going to be negotiations. And I am very grateful to the mayor to kind of saying, you know, I can work on this, you know, with him together. So, you know, we don't ever really truly retire. We just kind of gradually go into the sunset. And that's okay by me, too.
Okay, yeah, and I'm going to move this way across the room just so everyone knows. Go ahead.
Commissioner Nigro, just a question to you about looking forward for the FDNY. We know that there was a large number, as there are often, EMTs and paramedics who were promoted to become firefighters. But I'm wondering if going forward you're thinking about what the career path needs to be within the emergency medical side of the fire department and whether there are enough career options there for folks to increase pay, to increase opportunities so that the promotion doesn't move them out of doing the medical response and focusing on being a firefighter.
Well, certainly it doesn't move them out of it because firefighters respond to over 800 medical calls a day themselves. So the experience that they get as EMTs helps immeasurably in their role as firefighters. But also they have a career path to become paramedics. And we're looking at it all the time to see what is the best for the future of the department. We've made changes, and I'm sure over the next 4 years we will enhance these opportunities for everyone. There's a great challenge here in the city, the increasing workload on our medical resources. Calls continue to go up, how to best meet the needs of the people of the city. So we look at it each and every day.
Okay, let's go. David, then we'll get these guys.
For the police commissioner, the mayor mentioned you stay into the next term. How long do you plan on staying as police commissioner?
See, when I gave my comments, I don't know if you recall what I said. I said 4 years. So it's David. I tell you this all the time. This is a great job. I get to see what the cops do every day. Just yesterday, the cops from the 19th precinct were up at the Ronald McDonald House. The cops from the 8-3 were out in PS 106 out in Bushwick giving out presents to the kids. We went up to the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce last night with Lloyd Williams, and all the precinct commanders were up there. So just I have the opportunity every day to truly see what's helping move the city forward. So my plans are to stay here.
Go ahead.
Can you give us a better sense of the timeline? When should we expect Chancellor Fariña to formally step down? When do you hope to have a new chancellor in place? And do you have any thoughts about what might happen in the interim?
Sure. Chancellor will be staying on the job for the next few months. As I said, a nationwide search is already underway. Goal, of course, is to have the next chancellor in place by the time this chancellor leaves. So, we've got more work to do, but I feel good about the effort that's underway already.
Mr. Mayor, you said the search had been on for a while already. Can you explain when that started and how that process got kicked off, and also who's doing it? Is there anything special about this search since it's such a big position?
Again, our personnel process is something we hold close to the vest on purpose because it's personnel. It's not right to air publicly the discussions we're having with people, obviously many of whom have current jobs. It's a trusted group of folks inside this team. Have been, I would say the simple summation is we've been working on this for several months already. The Chancellor has been providing very helpful input and will continue to, and obviously is going to play a key role in the transition. And as she said, her version of helping with the transition, I suspect, will long continue after she hands in her official ID card, and we welcome that. But been underway for the last few months, and again, we'll have more to say as soon as it crystallizes.
Can you explain just a little bit more about who's helping find candidates?
No. No, again, it's not appropriate. I mean, it's a perfectly fair question. I'm just saying my vision of how we go about the personnel process is we don't point people to certain individuals. It's very important to do these things discreetly for a lot of reasons, but a core group of trusted people in this team are running that search process.
From outside the city?
No, all inside our team. Okay, coming around. Yes.
You spoke about how you're looking for someone to execute the equity and excellence vision and hit all of those metrics. Are you looking for any new ideas in the next 4 years?
Look, I always welcome new ideas, but I'm really, first of all, I'm thrilled with what Carmen's achieved, and I want to just deepen what she's already started. And second, equity and excellence is a very aggressive vision. I mean, you are truly expert in the field, getting all kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade. It's a massive, massive undertaking. It's unprecedented. It may be the single toughest goal of them all. So I'm very satisfied that we have the right blueprint. I would welcome additional good ideas, but am I looking for something we don't have? No, I think we have the right blueprint right now. Yeah.
The fate of the renewal program, where does it go from here with you no longer overseeing it?
Again, there's this thing called mayoral control of education, and it's very pertinent to this discussion. Every policy initiative has been subject to a lot of discussion beforehand, often, again, right in this room with the Chancellor and her team and a core group of us here at City Hall. I am very humble about what I know and don't know about education, but I always like to list my credentials that I went to public school, Shirlane went to public school, both our kids went to New York City public schools the whole way through. I was a school board member in Brooklyn when we had school boards. I was on the education committee of the city council for 8 years. As public advocate, it was one of my #1 areas of interest as well. That's at least given me some insight. And when we made these decisions, it was after a whole lot of deliberation here week by week. We typically met every week, sometimes multiple times in a week. When we were building up things like the pre-K initiative or the equity and excellence vision, we met constantly to get it right. I say all that to say the renewal school effort was something that was very carefully planned. We were very clear about the 3-year timeline. We also sat in this room sometimes and said, here's a school that we already know right now we're not waiting 3 years on, and you saw some closures and you saw some mergers earlier. But it's the right vision, and I feel very good about the schools, the RISE schools that are moving forward right away. I feel very good that of the 46 schools that are going to have an additional year, that the vast majority of them are going to do very well. So I'm committed to the vision long term.
Can I just answer?
Please.
I want to emphasize once again that one person is a leader, but all the other people do the work. To be very honest with you, the role of Chancellor, other than time commitment, was actually easier than some of the other jobs I've had, like superintendent and principal. Because at this level, you have built teams that are committed to your ideals and that actually execute the work. And I will tell you that with the renewal work that we've done, I'm extremely proud of it. You can, argue about, is 2 points, big enough, or is 5 points better? But the reality is that in those schools, teachers are better prepared to teach, principals are better prepared to lead, and those kids have an advantage and an edge that they did not have a year or two ago. So that is not going to go away. It may take a little tweaking in here to do other things, but the team that's working on this is top-notch and will continue to do the work that needs to be done.
Amen. Amen. Yes.
Hi, thank you. What do you see, Mr. Mayor, as some of the toughest challenges ahead for the next chancellor, and would that include, in your mind, potential budget cuts, considering the long-term possible ramifications of the tax bill?
I think there's no question we're deeply concerned about the impact of the tax bill, and we've been projecting that for a long time. It stands to reason if you have a huge reduction in federal revenue that will come out of major initiatives that matter to New York City and education, mass transit, infrastructure, you name it. But each one of those will be their own fight, to be fair. There will be a fight over each federal budget. And some of that is not decided by 51 votes. Some of that is a 60-vote requirement, and there'll be times when we can work with Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand and our House delegation to fight back some of the worst cuts. So although we are bracing ourselves, nothing has been decided yet, and it's a fight that I think we have a good chance of having a big impact on. I think the challenge for the next chancellor will be to continue progress at this clip and then try and build upon it. I think that's a tall order, because I think Carmen's been extraordinarily successful. But it can be done, and we're going to find someone who can do it. And then if we do deal with budgetary challenges, we're going to have to make tough decisions. I've already said education is my #1 priority, so I'm going to do a lot to try and protect the progress. But yeah, that certainly might be something a new chancellor has to deal with, making some tough choices. Okay, back there.
At the top of the chancellor's comments, she mentioned saying no to you. I was wondering, can you give some examples of what you're talking about when you said that? And
when I asked her to be chancellor.
Right. That's the only time.
has it happened since then?
We are very collaborative. I have to tell you, I'm a firm believer in mayoral control of education. But what it meant in our case, because we also had, as I said, 16 years of warm-up working together, and as everyone knows, Carmen was a key advisor to me when I was running for mayor, the whole 9 yards. We reached consensus. I really can't remember a moment where we got to loggerheads. We reached consensus, and sometimes I would say, this really matters to me, how do we get it done? And sometimes she would say, you need to realize there's a challenge here or a problem that we have to address, and we'd work it through. But the only time I remember a firm no was when I first ventured the idea of her being chancellor. I have a habit in those situations of not taking no for an answer the first time. And coming back, and I think my logic was overwhelming in the end, that she was the best person for the job. Way back.
Mr. Mayor, you made a comment about Chancellor Fariña complimenting her on visiting community school districts throughout the city, about 30 so far. She's almost up to you in town hall meetings.
Yes, she's trying to beat me. I'm troubled.
That being said, I'd like to ask the Chancellor and you if there's any plan to involve any of the community school councils in making recommendations for a selection as Chancellor.
We want them involved in a lot of things, particularly the issues that affect their communities, and I think this chancellor's done a great job deepening the communication with the community education councils, and I have a special affection for them as a former community school board member. But the selection process is, personnel decisions are not made through crowdsourcing. We respect everyone's opinion, but the way to choose good personnel is to do it very discreetly, quietly seek input, and hold the process close. Look around you. I mean, Charlene and I, again, we pride ourselves on our batting average. Look at the people around you. Look at the success they've achieved. Every single one of them went through the same process. When we announced Commissioner O'Neill, it was a very discreet process, as you'll remember, that got us to the right person. So we're going to continue that. Okay, yes.
Canciller, en español, ¿cuál fue su mayor logro en este tiempo que estuvo como canciller?
¿Perdona?
Su mayor logro en este tiempo que estuvo.
La cosa que tengo más orgullo, creo, más que nada, es que las maestras en la ciudad de Nueva York saben que estoy aquí para soportarlas y que hicimos cosas para traer de vuelta a las escuelas la dignidad de la profesión. Para mí no tengo más orgullo de ser maestra. Aún en esta posición me considero maestra primero. Y poder decir a las maestras de la ciudad lo que estáis haciendo en la clase, en el salón, es el mejor trabajo que puedes tener y la mejor oportunidad para ayudar a los estudiantes que en muchos casos vienen a las escuelas para ver oportunidades para el futuro. So the question he asked about the greatest joy, and to me, I think one of the greatest joys in this job is to be able to talk directly to teachers. I still think of myself first and foremost as a teacher and convince them that the work in the classroom is the most important thing they do, because public education is where we level the playing field. We have in a city like New York immigrants who come in, and if this is not the place where they succeed, they will not succeed in life. So that is one of my greatest joys.
Yeah.
In retaining the services of Commissioner O'Neill, has anything changed in terms of his compensation, retirement benefits, other benefits, or the other circumstances?
You mean the $1 million signing bonus? Sorry, Jimmy, just joking. No.
Sadly, I know.
Yeah. Everything is the same. Yes.
Chancellor Fariña, en español. Me gustaría saber cuál sería el consejo. Sabe que todos queremos saber quién podría hacer su trabajo también como usted, pero ¿cuál sería el consejo que le daría a esa persona que venga a hacer su trabajo para que pueda tener tanto éxito como usted?
El consejo más importante es que escuchen más que hablen. Escuchar a la gente que va a tener que hacer el trabajo o que va a tener el efecto del trabajo es muy importante. Y muchas veces la gente que está en cargo de cosas habla mucho y escucha poco. So, el mejor consejo es escuchar a la gente, tener entrevistas con personas individualmente antes de hacer muchas decisiones. She asked what is the advice I would give to anyone coming onto this job, and it is to listen more, talk less, and get a really good advice from the people that you're going to work with, the teachers. You know, one of the things I'm also proud of is that, you know, we have worked with our unions, not always agreeing, but understanding that there are major factors in decision-making, and certainly working with teachers. So listening to everybody and hearing from their point of view, I mean, I've been meeting with parents one-on-one, so when you make a decision, it's an informed decision.
Okay, yes. Wait, did you go before?
I did.
Okay, let's get someone who hasn't gone yet first.
Yeah, please, Commissioner O'Neill, since the Right to Know Act is already passed, and well, the city, the threat the city facing is real. So will you change part of the strategy of enforcement, and what's your plan?
Enforcement as to what?
Right to Know Act passed to limit the stop and frisk enforcement. So will you adjust your strategy of enforcement?
Let me just start before passing to the Commissioner. I want to just affirm, Right to Know Act does not change the way we police. It stipulates very specific items in how we treat identification and search. It does not change our overall policing strategy one bit, but take it away, Commissioner.
So you just have to take a look at the history of stop and question. In 2011, I think there were about 600,000 stops. In 16, there were about 13,000. This year, I think we're slated for a little over 10,000. But it's an important tool that we use. It's a constitutionally tested tool that the New York City police officers continue to use, but obviously in a very different way. You know, we're looking to keep people safe and get guns off the street, and that's how we use it.
Okay, way back.
Question for the First Lady. Earlier this fall, mental health advocates took the steps of City Hall and criticized the way the NYPD handled folks who have mental illness. First, what advice would you give to the police commissioner in his next 4 years for handling folks who are in distress? And second, how would you rate the way the NYPD has changed, if it has changed?
I think the NYPD is doing a fantastic job with working with folks who have mental illness. Most people don't realize how many calls a day they receive, more than 200 most days, regarding what they call as emotionally disturbed persons. And we've trained more than 5,000, I'm going to guess roughly 5,000 officers in crisis intervention training, and plan to do much more, which I think has helped tremendously in the way they are able to help people get to the services that they need. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I never tried to correct the First Lady, but we're up to 7,000.
That's
so.
all right.
It's a good correction.
Even better.
It's a good correction. We'll take it.
Thank you.
If I could just follow up, what's changed since Miss Danner was killed?
I think putting people through crisis intervention training, crisis outreach and support unit, and then we have some radio protocols that have changed too, that if there's a location where there has been a radio run for an emotionally disturbed person, the cops that are responding to that know that going in. Internally, we are looking at, we took a broad overview of our emotionally disturbed person response procedures, and we should be coming out with some changes too, and that's working in conjunction with the mayor and the First Lady.
Let me just add to it. I remember in the infancy of the Thrive Initiative, we were in my office one day, and Shalane and I talked to Bill Bratton about it. And you know that Bill Bratton is a very composed guy. He just lit up at the notion. He was so positive, so encouraging at the notion of the city focusing coherently and consistently on mental health challenges. And he turned to Shalane and said that it was very important to NYPD that her initiative succeed, because what we all know to be true, for too long our officers were asked to be mental health professionals without training and without the support from the rest of the healthcare system that would reduce the number of times that they have to deal with such challenges. So I think the collaboration between Shalane and the Thrive team and NYPD has been fantastic. I think there's a tremendous sense of common cause. If the advocates say we need to go farther, I agree with them. We are still in the ramp-up phase of everything about Thrive, and certainly of the training of officers. And I think it will get better with every passing year. But one thing that's profoundly different, I want to give Commissioner O'Neill credit and Commissioner Bratton and certainly Shalane credit, everyone's talking about it now. And this is one of the most powerful things about the Thrive Initiative. Because of Shalane's work, everyone's talking about it, and it's now central to the agenda to figure out how do we do things strategically to address folks with mental health challenges, and how do we stop just accepting the world that we received. Because the world we received was our officers were put in a horrible situation, our corrections officers and correction facilities were asked to be mental health facilities too. I mean, everything was backwards. Now, slowly but surely, we're putting the horse before the cart. Yeah.
For you, Mr. Mayor, but first for the Chancellor. Chancellor, do you have any regrets or frustrations about the ways in which you didn't aggressively take on the school desegregation issue? Is that something looking back, you wish you'd taken on a little bit more aggressively?
No, I think we've done some really good work. There's always more that can be done on any initiative, but I'm going back to what I said before. You could mandate some things, but having a lot more conversations with people, which is what we've been doing. I meet with the CEC presidents once a month on a Saturday, purposefully, so we can have interesting conversations. And I think convincing people to come to the table, to want to do the right thing for the right reasons, is a lot more important. And I think that's what we've been doing. I certainly feel that our new diversity committee that we just put in place, they just met, I think, last week, has gotten some great suggestions, because this is not just us coming with ideas, but what does the community think? I was at a town hall meeting this week when I said to the CEC, you guys tell me what are some of the things you want to do. So I'm proud that we did it in a way, and are doing it in a way, that builds community input and that people tell us what they want more of. And again, diversity covers a lot of things. One of the things I'm particularly proud of is the work we've done with special needs and English language learners in the city of New York. And having been one of those two myself, this is something that was ignored for too long, and diversity also means does every school take their fair share or provide services for these kids. So you can always do things better. I agree with the mayor that in our equity and excellence, the next chancellor should be thinking about going deeper and deeper, but I think we're on the right path.
Let's do a few more. Oh, you want to follow? Go ahead, yeah.
I was going to ask you to go back to this question about involving CECs in the process. In 2012, you said we need a more democratic, small d democratic version of mayoral control. We need a chancellor who's presented to the public, not just forced down our throat. So how does your process, keeping it close to the vest, as you said, translate to that?
That was a clear reference to several things that were going on at the time. Including non-educator chancellors. I mean, the epitome of that was the very sad episode around Kathy Black and choosing her as chancellor. And what I was saying at the time was the attitude that we have to take towards mayoral control is that it be grounded in the experience of communities, that we be constantly listening to communities. I did not say we're going to go and do auditions, but that the whole attitude toward community input across the board had to change, and that we had to listen to what communities were saying in general, not here's a candidate, do you like this specific candidate, but listen to their broad mandate to us. So for example, I heard all over the city back then and since how much people believe there should be an educator's chancellor, how much they believe in someone who will support the teaching profession and not degrade it or disrespect it. And there's a bunch of things I've received consistently through public input that inform the chancellor I will choose. But again, this is not a decision you do with a public ballot. Go ahead.
I'm going to briefly ask what you thought of Eva Moskowitz's list of the 15 chancellors she might like you to select.
I want to make a formal public pledge. I will not hold her endorsement against any of the candidates. I have not seen her list, and we will be generating our own list. Yes.
I'm just curious, for the Chancellor, you mentioned being involved in a part-time way and giving your expertise. Do you see that as joining a nonprofit or being a consultant to the DOE or just giving...
You know, Leslie, let me be very clear. The next stage of my life, I am not going to have a BlackBerry to walk around with, okay? I am going to go out to dinner and not have to respond to any emergencies. I've already started thinking about at least one vacation with each of my daughters and their children. So I do not see anything in my life that's going to put me in an area of big responsibility. I do see whatever I do to be of support to the work that's already being done and to maybe just put a little final touch to some of the things I've started. But in no way do I want to become a leader in any other way other than what I'm doing now.
I think you gave it the office. All right, last call on this, and then we'll go to other topics. Go ahead.
Commissioner, will you stay in office until your successor is...
We just addressed that. Again, guys, please focus when we answer the questions. So, we said Chancellor's going to be around for the next few months. Search is well underway. Goal is to have the new Chancellor in place in that time frame. Yes.
Other topics?
Let's just see. Last call on this. I'm going to do theirs in the back. Go ahead.
Chancellor, about the diversity in specialized high schools, you launched the afternoon courses for underserved students to help them better prepared for the entrance test. So do you think your successor should keep this approach or they should dramatically change the admission policy?
Well, first of all, I want to be very clear that in all my roles, every time I left them, I let the next person make their own independent decisions. I mean, if we leave a good foundation, people should build on it, but I don't ever go back and try to double guess what everyone's doing. However, the DREAM program has proven to be very successful. We've expanded it this year at Stuyvesant and plan to even expand it more for next year. And anything that's successful, it behooves anyone to undo. So my total commitment is that the things, particularly under the Equity and Excellence banner, will just go deeper and deeper. So I fully expect that to stay.
Yeah, I think it's been a very successful program and one we want to expand, but I also want to change the state law. I've said this everywhere, and I'm going to say it again. I want to change the state law, because the specialized schools admissions should not be determined by a single test. And we need to ensure that everyone has opportunity to experience those schools who has the ability to learn at that level. And there's a lot of ways to assess that go well beyond a single standardized test. On this topic, last call. Unless there's anything else, go ahead.
One of the stubborn problems in the school system has been the achievement gap faced by Black and Hispanic students in the public schools. And the state math and reading exam test scores show that that achievement gap has certainly persisted, if not worsened, over the past 3 or 4 years that the Chancellor's been in office. I wonder if you guys could address that.
It certainly has not worsened. I think what's clear is the good news is that we've seen increases in test scores across all districts and across all demographics, and we've seen growing participation in AP classes across demographics. But you're right in your first statement, there is a persistent achievement gap. How do we address it? By deepening the strategies. Pre-K is only beginning to have the impact that we will see eventually as its effect plays out over years and years. 3K will deepen that a lot more. That 1-2 punch of kids getting a high-quality early childhood education for the first 2 learning years of their life universally is going to change things in a much more profound way than I think people realize right now, and have a huge equalizing effect. But also, when you think about getting kids reading on grade level by the time they take those third grade tests, I can't think of anything more elemental as a strategy to address the achievement gap than that. So we have just begun, it would be my argument.
But there's one more thing, and actually I just met with Cardinal Dolan and all the religious leaders in the city. We have to start cracking chronic absenteeism. If you look at what is the most significant piece that goes across school failures, it's too high absenteeism and chronic absenteeism. And I think this is the right time to get faith-based organizations on board. I keep saying I'd like to have a weekend where we say every parent sends their children to school every day. And if you look as an issue, this is one that we really need to look at. And it's a national problem. It's not a New York City problem. But when you look at what is one of the major characteristics that run across all struggling schools, that is the one that's pretty consistent. So we need to figure out that.
Okay, last call on this. Go ahead.
If I could just follow up on my colleagues' questions on the specialized high schools, you don't need to change the state law.
We've been over this 4,000 times. There's a man over there, there's a man sitting there who's the corporation counsel. We've had this conversation exhaustively. If you allow me to finish my answer, because it's important, because I'm going to interrupt you respectfully, because I've said it so many times, and then I'll listen to the rest of your question. Per the law department, to do this properly, we need, and to do it beyond reproach, including legal challenge, we need to change state law. Go ahead.
So am I incorrect in thinking that except for STI, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech, you don't need to change the law?
You're incorrect.
Well said, Zach. Okay, we are going to, same topic, or new topic? Okay, we're going to go to new topics now. Hold on, I know a few people have to move.